driving to New York City right now as I speak to you to do 2 live stand-up shows at Gotham Comedy Club with my heavy-duty tripod in hand that's right next to me in the car, solid steel. They'll be doing some more POV recording where I put it behind me on stage. As you've been seeing some of my posts, I put it behind me on stage on an angle so we get to see the audience, all their faces, and me talking to them, which is always fun. So I'm just gonna babble here till we see if some people come on live, because I want to talk about the new documentary, 2-part documentary on HBO Max, all about the Sopranos. Basically, David Chase's life story you get out of this documentary. But let's see who comes on live, and I will keep my eyes on the road. I won't be looking at the screen very much as I'm in a go 1 mile an hour traffic jam, which I think is going to be all the way into New York City tonight to do these 2 spots, because my nav came up as a 1-hour drive. And to give you a sort of sense, if you're not a New Yorker and know where New Rochelle, New York, where I live, is and adjacent to Gotham Comedy Club, which is in the Chelsea area on 22nd Street between 7th and 8th Avenue. It's a 20-mile drive, and my nav came up saying 60 minutes. It's usually about 40. So there's about 20 minutes of extra bullshit standstill traffic as people are slowly coming on, and we are slowly moseying here. So if you were a Sopranos fan, if you weren't a Sopranos fan, if you saw some of the Sopranos episodes, if you saw every one of them, I highly recommend this documentary. As if you follow me, you know I'm an avid documentary watcher. I probably watch 2 documentaries a week, which is crazy. My wife and I, it's basically 90% of what we watch. And I've even said to her recently, we got to start watching movies, because I'm trying to do this acting thing, and you need to watch acting to kind of get stirred up to want to do acting, you know. So it's the same with stand-up. Not that you should watch lots of stand-up, because that can fuck you up if you watch too much stand-up and you're trying to be a stand-up comedian. But you need to occasionally watch certain comedy specials, as I've recommended Adam Sandler's new one called Love You. Highly recommended that one on Netflix. Got to occasionally watch them when the big guys do them. You know, Chris Rock does a special, Dave Chappelle does a special. If you're a comedian, you should watch those. You can't skip all stand-up altogether. You can get bored. Same with movies and acting. So this Sopranos doc is really, really good. It was well done. It made me love David Chase. The weirdest thing about David Chase to me after watching this documentary, and of course watching The Sopranos, was how could somebody that effing talented at writing, just so good and directing and doing everything he did. I mean, he did bring in a lot of other writers to write episodes, which one thing I didn't know, because I'm not an insane Sopranos fan like some people are, I didn't know Michael Imperioli wrote any of the episodes until I watched that documentary. I'm also a super fan of Michael Imperioli. I just think he was just some of the actors on that show were such standouts, and you go, you know, when you get great actors like that, and then you get a David Chase who's overseeing the whole thing, who's just brilliant, and they're letting him, HBO is like a newer entity at the time, and they're letting him do what he wants to do. It's just such a slam dunk, and such a smack in the face to Hollywood it must have been back then, when gets an opportunity on an HBO, and they let him do what he wants to do, and they see how good it can be. And I mean, when you're watching that documentary, and they're also talking about how people back then would have parties at their houses to watch a show. Nobody does that anymore. The only time in America everybody gets together to watch a show is the Super Bowl. That's it. You don't really have a World Series party. You don't have a Master. I mean, unless you're an insane golf fan, you're not having a Masters party at your house for the final round of the Masters. There's no TV show where everybody is getting together in their house and watching it. And The Sopranos, to be able to do that, and then also the people were like, you know, making food and eating dinner around it is just amazing. It's such a cool thing. And what it must have been like to be an actor on that show, knowing like everybody is watching every episode of this thing that you do. And you know, it's pre-internet, of course. It's pre all of that. So it's a time when, you know, everybody isn't sidetracked. They meet at somebody's house and watch these. I can remember I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and my friend Kyle Dunnigan, comedian extraordinaire Kyle Dunnigan, was managed by this guy Rick Messina. Rick Messina, he was a really big manager back then in the 90s and the early 2000s, and probably, I don't know if he even still is out there managing. I don't even know if the guy's still alive. Somebody Google check that, look it up. I don't know. But Rick Messina managed Tim Allen and Drew Carey when they had their sitcoms. So he was this super rich guy. He lived in Encino. I remember this. He was single, and he had this pimped out guy house. And when I say guy house, it was so guyed out, the house. He had a fake Fenway Park in his backyard to play wiffle ball in. It looked just like a mini Fenway. It even had an announcer's booth above home plate where there were always comedians on narrating the games as they were going on. And they were all smoking weed and saying hilarious shit and narrating these wiffle ball games in the guy's backyard. Next to the Fenway Park wiffle ball stadium, there was a huge volleyball net. There was a big basketball court so people could have games of that. And this guy was so loaded that he bought the neighbor's house. His house was in a cul-de-sac, right? He bought the neighbor's house, so now he has two houses next to each other, right? And owns them both. Doesn't connect them though, and makes one of the houses like a bar. Like he gut the whole house and made it this like bar, and he would have these unbelievable soprano parties on Sundays to watch The Sopranos. All these leather couches. If you got there early enough, you got to sit close to this big, humongous projection TV I think he had. And he had all kind of catered food there, just free for everybody to come in. That's how well he was doing. Free, catered Italian food. This guy was doing, I still remember this. There's certain shit, like when I'm around really, in a really rich situation, I'm like, I turn into my dad where I can't go, holy shit, can you believe this? Like, I can't, like, act like I belong. I have to just be that douchebag who's like, holy shit, can you believe this shit? This guy had this huge refrigerator in the garage with every drink you could think of, like obscure. You're like, holy shit, they got fucking Strawberry Quick in here. Can you believe it? They got Yoo-Hoos. They got fucking every flavor of Coke that's ever existed. Then they got, you know, alcohol everywhere in the party, just like open bar, free to get in. And this all leading up to The Sopranos coming on that night. And everybody's sitting there watching them and just laughing out loud and just loving this fucking show. I just so miss that time where people got together. It just kind of, I just started taking these acting classes about 4 or 5 months ago. And it's on Zoom. The whole thing's on Zoom. I don't know if people know this. In the acting world now, you don't even go into New York City or Los Angeles anymore to audition for parts in movies and television. Everything is self-tape. So you make a tape of yourself doing the scene. You got to get somebody else to read for you, and you got to film yourself, and then you send it in. And I've been doing these Zoom classes, and it's so fucking ruining the fun of acting. Talking to a fucking screen it just sucks compared to sitting in a room. You know what I mean? I mean, sitting in a room and acting with another actor is so fun and exhilarating, and doing it on a fucking Zoom is so fucking false and disconnected. It just pisses me off. And I'm watching this documentary about the Sopranos, and they're showing all the auditions of the characters. You know, Christopher auditioning for his part in the pilot. All the different people that were up for the part of Tony Soprano and all their auditions. All the different characters. Dr. Melfi. And they're showing all the auditions. And every one of them has a script in their hand, reading with the casting director, and they're doing little glances and they're reading, right? None of them are off book completely. None of them are memorized to the point where they don't have to look down occasionally. But you still feel it, and you're still into what they're doing. And it just, that pissed me off, because I was like, yeah, I'm doing these auditions where you can't do that on video when you're it's something about when you're on a Zoom call and you try to do that in an acting audition on Zoom, and you got to look down. It just doesn't look right. It takes you out of the scene completely because you can't feel the other person. I hate this whole world now. It's funny because that's exactly what I'm doing now. I'm trying to give you the version of me driving into New York City and talk to you about this new documentary on HBO about the making of Sopranos. And I'm doing the thing I'm bitching about is exactly what I'm doing. I'm talking to a phone while I'm sitting here in a traffic jam going 3 miles an hour. And I'm just going to make my spot. I'm just going to make it. It annoys me. It annoys me. You don't make a lot to do these comedy clubs in New York City. And when it takes an hour and 10 minutes to drive 20 miles, remember, Nick DiPaolo couldn't stand it. That's why he finally moved to Georgia. Good for him. If I didn't have kids, I would have moved. I'm telling you. The only reason I'm still here in this New York area is because my kids go to school here, and I'm not going to pull them out and start them all over again in a new school system. But when my daughter gets out of high school, I can't see us living up in this super expensive Westchester County, just above New York City area. I just don't see it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. But, dude, seriously, go check out this David Chase documentary called Wise Guy. All about the making of Sopranos. And that's really all I wanted to talk to you guys about. I wanted to get you guys to go check it out. Who out there has seen it? I'll scroll ahead. What country? I'm not leaving the country, even though that is on my bucket list, dude. I'd love to live in another country for like a year. I don't know if we could. My wife and I would love to do it. We talk about it all the time, but I don't know. I don't know if we could pull it off. We probably could. She could probably do her job. I don't know. We're gonna do comedy in another country. I don't know how the fuck I would pull that off. Maybe when I'm in my 70s and I'm just done, and I'm like old and shit. think where else? What other countries? There was a time where I thought London would be a cool spot to live. I remember doing stand up there. Maybe like 18, 20 years ago, I did stand up in London, and I couldn't believe how much money the comedians were making in London that were in with all the clubs there. They were making as much as you would make to go on the road and fly all over the place without ever leaving their city, just doing stuff in London. And I was like, wow, London comedy gigs pay 5 to 10 times more than New York City comedy clubs. Just crazy. Joe, why do you stream and drive? I fucking told you, because I'm in a fucking traffic jam, dick faces. I'm going 2. If I was going any faster than 2 miles an hour, I'd be off. It's just like a phone call. I'm fine. I don't know what the hell all this traffic is. I don't know why Waze put me this way if it's that slow. I guess there's no other options. But go check out that documentary, and that's really all I wanted to say, guys. All right? Maybe this is going to pick up and I won't be driving 2 miles an hour and I can shut this off. All right? Johnny Negative over there? All right. Take it easy, guys. Take it easy.